innocent and perfect light of God. Divine innocence. In this moment, the acceptance of innocence itself, the innocence that you have always been, and that is devoid of the identity that you've given yourself in the name of separation. The happiness of realizing you are the light of God. The joy in that acceptance. There's nothing that you can do one way or the other to change the truth of being the light of God. You can't damage your divine self. You can't attack your divine self. You can't change the reality of love itself. But you can believe in difficulty. You can believe that you are unworthy of God's love. You can believe that you know something about who you are instead of just accepting. Accepting the eternal light that has always been, the eternal truth that has always been. This can be understood with the mind that made up the belief of separation and difficulty. This can't be understood with the mind that made up the belief of death. The mind can't understand perfection until the mind is truly surrendered and returned to the hands of God. Allowing the divine voice of love to lead you. When you allow the voice of love to lead you, showing you the way in every day and every moment, you no longer will rely on the past, and you will no longer put your faith in the belief of separation. Everything that you have made in the belief of separation has been for one purpose: difficulty. It's been for one purpose: the belief of battle, the belief that worry has such authenticity that you made it Lord and Master. Lord and Master of insanity. What is it to surrender? To disown what you believed about the past, where you came from, what you think happened, what you think contributed so heavily to your identity. All of this is being called to be brought to the light of love, to truly see with the heart. That your divine self, with a capital S, is still completely intact, but has been forgotten and a false idol has been taken up with. The journey of separation within the belief in the world is like belonging to a gang where you place loyalty and oaths with allegiance to battle. But in every moment of this life is the calling for the journey that you have believed in so deeply to truly be surrendered and awaken to the light within. How do you find this light within without the stillness? How do you find this light within without the willingness to be shown the way? The I know that is so habitual wants to take credit and be rewarded for figuring it out. Except lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, everyone comes back to the same place, having tried to use the ego identity to figure out the truth, and never realizing that it's not possible to figure out the truth with a mind that made up the insanity of separation to begin with. When that light dawns in your heart, every beloved will eventually turn toward prayer, will turn toward surrender, and will turn toward the guidance of love that is waiting to lead you out of the valley of death into the light of love. Step by step, moment by moment, learning to trust, gathering trust, gathering a new strength, gathering the happiness that the past is not true. The happiness of realizing every beloved who has incarnated has been mistaken, not condemned, just mistaken. Put their faith in a false identity. Tried to protect it, defend it, prove its worth. The attention and the energy that has been given to protecting and defending the false identity has in the past been a full-time job. Everything that the mind has played with has been about protection and defense. Everything has been about trying to stay one step ahead, be in control. It's a blessed moment in every beloved's journey to recognize and to accept. It was all for nothing. It came back to exactly the same place. And yet, no harm, no foul. To believe in illusion doesn't change the truth of love. It's a complete waste of time and effort to try to figure out the past so that you understand it, so that you can grasp the meaning of it. When truly looking at the past is just realizing, oh, it never had any meaning except the meaning I gave it. The identity that I protected and defended in the name of love disappears. Disappears because it's not who you are. It's not what you are. You're here in this incarnation to remember that the truth is true, that only love is real, that only love exists. And it has nothing to do with the name love that has been given to relationships and circumstances within the world. Love is truly without conditions, has no opinions, has no needs to get from anyone or anything. It's the return to love, to recognize and realize and embrace that within you are whole and complete, and all needs are met by the divine. The needs are met by the divine before you even recognize you have a need, if you turn to the light of God. If you try to turn to the world to have your needs met, it is a guarantee of disappointment, because there is nothing outside you that can heal the perception within that something is missing, that something is lacking. Imagine a life of joy. Imagine a life of harmony and peace, and the realization that everything is already within, that all that you longed for was always just right here within you, because God is within you. God is the light that you are. And opening to that light, opening to that truth is the journey of love. It's a journey of exchanging, surrendering the arrogance of the ego that has decided it knows how everything should be. And all the while, that knowing is a facade that is trying to cover up the fear, the terror. And the terror is coming from the belief that you are separate from God. Doesn't matter how it expresses itself. Doesn't matter what you think, what problem shows up in your life. Every perception of problem is the belief that you are separate from God. And that belief has no validity, because in truth, you're not separate, truly. And so, as you accept that you are whole and complete in the truth of God, You are no longer addicted to problems. And problems are an addiction. And what is that addiction for? Because every addiction must have a purpose. The purpose of the addiction to problems has one insane purpose: to call upon worry and control to give you an identity. Every beloved has an identity of the belief that control is necessary to survive. Thinking constantly, planning, holding expectations, worrying for sure, concern. And all of love is calling you to rest in love, to truly let go, drop into this moment. It's a learning. It's what you have forgotten. In the truth of oneness, there wasn't even a need to drop in because you're already in. So the learning to drop in, the learning to accept, the learning to surrender is definitely foreign territory. But it won't stay that way. If you say yes, love will lead you. If you say yes, the divine alchemy of love's healing will transform everything that you made up and you offer to be surrendered and transformed. Transformation is real. Healing is real. It's real in the sense that it is the power of God's divine alchemy that transforms all the beliefs that have been held of separation. But it's a conscious journey and a conscious relationship that develops with the truth of love. It's a conscious yes. And every moment that is surrendered and devoted to the truth of love opens that yes more and more and more. Don't be afraid of the yes of your heart. Don't be afraid of losing control. You never had it anyways, because there's truly nothing to control. Trying to control illusion is like trying to hold on to sand with 2 fingers. It's not possible. Holding on to illusion is the game that the ego loves, trying to hold on to illusion. But always, 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 the illusion is whispering to you, seek and don't find. So that you will constantly feel betrayed and disappointed. And you will also, in the belief of seek and don't find, you will continue to look. Because the addiction to seeking in the world is top of the list of the ego identity. And this is why love keeps calling you to rest in God, to allow and invite that love, that truth, that power to be recognized within, to open the heart, to learn to open the heart, and the willingness to have your heart opened. Willing even to have divine surgery. Willing to be in the divine hospital. Willing for the fever of fear to be soothed and let go. One day, one moment, one lifetime. Every moment offered to God. Step by step. And in this moment, affirming that here in the infinite circle of love, we are one. Nothing else is true. The infinite circle of love is always all that there is. If you see something else, if you experience something else, if you think you know of something else, just joyfully recognize it's made up. Because the infinite circle of love is always what is. There is only one presence here. It is the life force of God. And within this life force, we live and move and breathe as one. Opening and truly surrendering the false identities that have been made and have been perceived as held as a body identity. The willingness to let go and surrender all the roles that you have attached to yourself and to everyone else as legitimate. But to realize you are the light of God. Whatever expressions of love you offer, they don't have to be a role at all, because those roles were made to try to stay in control and know something. Open to the heart of love and be freed. Always the divine. This sanctuary is filled with love because love is all that exists. Nothing else is real. Everything that you touch, everything that you look upon, everything that you think about is the light of God. If you see something else, if you think you know something else about it, or you feel something else about it, it's a mistaken identity. Surrender it as quickly as possible and come back to the journey of love, to the heart of oneness. One heart in divine, divine harmony. This universe is all love. Nothing else exists. To truly accept that the universe is all love is to truly lay down the swords of battle, the need, the perception of defense, the need to protect, the need to try to control anything, because there is truly nothing to control. Rest in love, where you truly belong. Rest. Putting down the suitcases of the past that carry all of the weighty beliefs of identity. Throwing those suitcases into the bonfire of love, willing for them to be forever disintegrated. And opening to the divine light of your true self. Light of God. Beauty and perfection. The power of your acceptance, the power of your yes is the power of the universe. Your yes is the power of God. Your yes, sincerely held, opens the door to all transformation, easily and effortlessly, moment to moment. Allow this prayer to permeate into your heart through, again, your willingness, your yes. Recognizing that these prayers were transmitted from the divine as a teaching, as a transformational energy field to be accepted and to be used by every beloved who says yes. Every false belief of separation. I am Mary of conception. I am seeking to open your heart, offering my love and guidance as your suffering world comes apart. Bring your pain like a flower to open. Bring your sorrow to place at my feet. Tears that are watering my garden in the river of Jordan will meet. Oh, my children, I seek your surrender. Both the path and the message are clear. My Saint John is walking beside you, holding your hand through this fear. Keep your strength as you seek to be humble. Let the power that guides you reveal holy rapture, confirming you know what is real. The Divine Mother that is here is calling to you to truly surrender the suffering and let your world fall apart. Don't fear the untangling of the lies. Don't fear the unraveling of the made-up identity. But welcome the power of God's love that can transform everything that has been made up. And open your heart, because that is the way. Just to keep saying, yes, I'm willing to open my heart and live in my heart. Living in that divine heart of oneness. I saw a great radiance. I saw a fountain of knowledge. I drank of her water, and she gave me the strength to carry on. In this river of God, I've put myself to navigate. I'm here to learn. I took her boat, and I encountered the Holy Grail, the holy truth of love. I heard her voice, and her song said to me, whoever drinks from this cup, this chalice, has a path to uncover, a path to learn. I heard her voice, I heard her song of love that sang in my heart. Whoever drinks of this chalice has a road of love to follow. Praise in the heights to all the power of love, praising the truth of love itself, holding in sacredness all holy blessed words of truth, of light, of love, as the heart says yes. Eu vi grande claral, vi a fonte do saber. Eu bebi da sua água, me deu a força para vencer. Nesse rio de Deus, eu me pus a navegar. Eu tomei a sua barca, grau sagrado foi encontrar. Ouvi a sua voz, é o seu canto eu me dizer. Quem bebe nesse cálice tem caminho repercorrer. Ouvi a sua voz, eu ouvi o seu cantar. Quem bebe desse cálice tem segredo a desvendar. Hosana nas alturas, é quem deu esse poder. São santas palavras benditos e natureza esse poder. In this river of God, I put myself to navigate, to be in the boat of love, and let that boat be navigated for you is the learning. To let go of the addiction of believing that you are in charge and that you are orchestrating anything except more of the past, except in surrender, except in the willingness, show me the way. Show me the way, and I will follow. I will follow moment to moment. And when I forget, I will come back as quickly as possible and follow again. Love always, always present, always waiting for the invitation. Give your invitation, give your life, give your moment to moment day, and love answers always. A coat rack. Let this page be a coat rack you leave something on. Something that you will be better off without. Something that if you no longer carry its weight, you will look less cunning and dangerous, less inclined to explode. And you will know more mirth if a thorn in your mind you let me keep, bringing you back to awareness with a pincushion of my being. Why not? Then the scent of your love will reach others, because the scent of your love will have been broken open by love's remembering. The scent of your love will reach others and will draw them from their places of hiding as you offer love, as you offer peace, and withdraw all perceptions of the need to get and the need to solve problems, but to put all faith in God. As you draw these beloveds from their places of hiding, their shields they won't need anymore. And they won't use it to veil and to hold between our embrace as a caution. The world will be known as more miraculous, tender, joyful, and always giving, because you have brought peace and harmony. And your hands, angel, will then too be able to carry more of God off wherever you like to go, because God goes there with you. You could set him all around in places that you wish him found by your willingness. God, peace, harmony into every moment. This is your journey of love. Let there be a coat rack here you leave something on. How simple is that? That you could actually be willing to see what's in the way. The willingness to have the light shined on what you're making up, what you believe in from the past. And instead of continuing to carry it around with you like a sword, that you would hang it up on the coat rack. Can healing truly be that easy? Yes, it can. What keeps healing from being easy? Resistance. The resistance of the fear of being out of control is the great scam that the ego has played. Healing is instantaneous. But the resistance to healing is the mind's trap of habits, knowing. How many times a day do you think, I know? 80,000? Breaking 100,000? I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. And every day, you spend all day collecting more knowing. So at the end of the day, you have more, not less. You're carrying more. You're gathering information all day. You're gathering assessments of what you think you see and what you think you believe you see. You're gathering plans for what seems to be the future. You're gathering circumstances that keep telling you, yeah, this is important. This is important knowing that I'm gathering here. Really important. And at the end of the day, it's all the same old stuff that you knew before. Because there's absolutely nothing new that you are learning in the world. There is nothing new that you are gathering in knowing that doesn't already come from the past. Because there is only one element of knowing in the world. Every element of knowing in the world is based on, I know I'm separate from God. I know I am alone. I know I am a body. I know I am going to die. So all the knowing that you gather is all based on that knowing. You're not learning anything new. because there's nothing in this world that is new to learn. But your true learning is in the willingness to be shown a new way, to listen to the voice of love, and to truly hang up on the coat rack everything from the past. The ego has played a game that has convinced everybody that you're changing, that things are changing because of what you think you know. When there really is, there's only one element of truth. And it's not a knowing, it's an accepting. You will eventually open to its knowledge. You will eventually open to the divine wisdom that holds that truth and all truth. But the only thing that there is to learn here is that you are the light of God. And that seems to be the greatest resistance. It's so much more familiar to know things about others, to gather information about others, to figure out what everybody else should be doing. That's a favorite. To judge and assess. And if you're not judging and assessing others, there's always you to judge and assess. Because truly, every time you are judging or assessing anyone or having an opinion of anyone that looks to be outside you, it's all just a self-judgment and assessment of the belief of being separate from God. And love calls you and whispers to you constantly. And all you have to do is learn to listen. Except the listening is something that you've not been aware of. Because it's not a listening as you've been listening, how the ego listens. The ego listens with its ears. The ego listens with its eyes, and it's assessing constantly to see what it likes and what it doesn't like and what it agrees with and what it knows about this and knows about that. It's a very busy, busy existence. And it's very tiring. There's no tiredness in love. Your divine spirit, the light of who you are, can't be tired. The body, yes, but that's not who you are. You are the light of God, the divine spirit, the eternal light. These are just words until you begin to truly embrace and refuse to accept any longer the lies of the past in all of their meanderings. I remember a beloved when I was in the journey of remembering. I remember a beloved who was also consciously in her journey. And she came to a realization and she said very quietly, I'm seeing the insanity of my mind. And it was so surprising to her. And in a way, I wasn't even really available in that moment to recognize, you're seeing the insanity of your mind. It's the mind that everybody has. I wasn't aware of that. But her dedication, her devotion to the willingness to let the spirit of love show her the insanity that she believed in. Eventually, as the spirit of love showed that same insanity in this mind, I was able to stay firm and trust that this was divine healing, because this other beloved had demonstrated, just in a very simple way, demonstrated that she was willing to let the spirit of love expose the insanity. What the ego mind likes to do is to pretend that its thoughts are just every once in a while, and that most of it is just non-attacking. But when the Holy Spirit really exposes, and this is a blessing, exposes the insanity, not to say, oh, look how insane you are, but to realize that it's so painful. It's so painful to be out of love. It's so painful to be in the belief that there is a problem, and that something is wrong, that something is needing to be protected and defended. It's so painful because it's not of God. It's not the truth of your divine self. And all the pain that has been identified with in the world, all the suffering that the world has identified with, is all coming from the thoughts of separation. They don't come from any place else. The blessing of love is that when you finally accept that everything that is the cause of your suffering is coming from your own mind, that blessing is the beginning of freedom. That you can truly surrender the ideas and thoughts that you're projecting out and believing that the problem is out there, when every single element of it is in your own mind. But if it were actually true that the problem was out there, we could never heal. There would be no healing. Because if it was out there, it's going to keep happening, and we have no way of stopping it. This is why everyone in the world feels this deep, deep sadness, this deep frustration, this deep concern for everything that's happening out there, not realizing that the healing are the beliefs that it's real. You carry within you the power of transformation of all of humanity. As you heal your own beliefs of separation, thousands heal with you. Thousands. That's how powerful your own willingness to transform really is for everyone. Now, because the ego identity is so self-absorbed and narcissistic, for the most part, there isn't an impetus to the realization that thousands can heal with you, because the narcissism of the ego is so essential to its makeup that in that narcissism, all it really cares about is how personally it feels. What am I getting? Well, if thousands are healed with me, will everybody recognize that it was me? Will I get finally the accolades that I've been dreaming of? That's all of the healing that has to occur, is the recognition that every beloved is you. The narcissism of being an identity within a body that is essentially self-absorbed through the belief that you're without. That's where the narcissism comes from. The narcissism, the self-absorption, comes from the lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of believing that you had to protect and defend yourself, or else you wouldn't survive. So the opening, the spiritual recognition, the spiritual opening of awareness that finally is recognizing, oh, in order to recognize love, I have to offer love. That's how love is manifested. That's how I will recognize love, is when I offer love without conditions. To see the light and truth of every beloved rather than the identity that I've given to them. Now, you may think if you surrender the identities that you've given to everybody, that you're going to be bereft and without. Because without the identities, you don't have personal relationships. But you're letting go of what never was. And what you're opening to is the divine truth of oneness with every beloved. The true intimacy of recognizing the light of God within everyone. Every beloved that you've given a role to is a mixed bag. Every relationship that you have given and placed a role on them, no matter whether it's a friend or an aunt or an uncle, or it doesn't matter what the role is. And even the role of an enemy. But even the ones that you've given better identities to and better roles, you have a full story of each one. And the duality of that story is, well, I like some of these things and how they behave, but these other things are just, they really bother me. So I have to really work with them to get them to be different so that I feel better. Not realizing that every single identity that you have given to everybody clouds and covers the light that they truly are. This is what you're here for, is to see the light that is the reflection of your light. When you judge someone for their behaviors, for their perceived shortcomings, when you judge them for this, you're filled with shame and guilt. And when you have that shame and guilt, part of the shame and guilt is not only because you believe that you're condemned for the judgment that you made, but also because You're terribly terrified of the judgment on you. This is why everybody is making facades all the time of different masks that everyone wears in order to protect and defend and present something that is going to keep them safe. But the spiritual journey is about recognizing that these masks are painful, untrue identities that have to be surrendered and let go. The truth of your divine perfection is so brilliant. And that discovery is hindered by the facades that you keep making. And it's amazing that everybody doesn't look like they weigh 600 pounds. For all the facades that layer one on top of the other, it's like wearing 20 sweaters and 20 pairs of pants. Everything being layered one on top of the other. That you bring out with each one, depending on what facade you believe is best to show right now. And there's no honesty. And it isn't because you haven't been honest consciously. It's that you believe that this was the way to defend and protect. How can these facades be let go? First, you have to want to let them go. You have to want to meet the truth of who you are. And in wanting to meet that divine truth of who you are, you stop giving credence and you begin to ask for healing and the willingness that in each situation of each moment, that you're willing to be undefended. Simply that, undefended. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. And learning to accept that there's nothing, absolutely nothing for you to prove, absolutely nothing. And that every time that you honestly want to see how you're trying to prove, imagine that you're having coffee with a friend and they're telling their life, something that they found successful. And everything in you is either getting upset and fighting with the jealousy that they have a success and it's not yours, and the addiction to wanting to one-up them, wanting to at least match them. And if you can't do it verbally in a easy way that won't be noticed too much, you at least do it with yourself, within your own mind. I'm just as good as that. That could have been me. I could have done that. And the temptation is so palpable. And yet the call of love is calling you to go the other direction and to actually drop the addiction, the urgency that the energy body is poking at you, of wanting to prove your worth, wanting to prove your success, and instead stepping back and breathing and resting in the moment and recognizing the addiction with honesty. Oh boy, do I want to prove my worth. Everything in me is wanting to prove my worth. I can't stand it. Or at least if I can't prove my worth, maybe I can shoot a gun across the bow and break the bubble of what they think they've done. You know, minimize it. Or use spiritual ego to say, you know, you're just making that up. There's nothing to prove. I don't know why you're doing that. You haven't really done anything. Not recognizing that attack under the name of spirituality is the addiction of the belief that these facades and this proving of worth is valid. Every day, all day, you have divine opportunity. When comparisons come up, and that was a comparison, when there is this urge to compare, the willingness to be honest with yourself and say, no, there's nothing to compare. If this beloved is the light of God and I am the light of God and we are one, what could there be to compare? Am I willing to accept the truth in this moment and truly accept healing? This is my opportunity. The opportunity isn't when I'm in meditation. The opportunity is now when I'm having coffee with the beloved. I'm not saying that there couldn't be an opportunity in meditation, but don't wait for meditation. Don't wait for prayers. Pray now that you refuse the addiction of trying to prove your worth. Is it insidious? Yes, it is insidious. Addiction is insidious. That's why it's recognized as addiction. But this is the addiction that covers all addictions. Addiction to a false self. The addiction to a series of facades that are there to protect, defend, and prove your worth constantly. What if somebody has a facade that's a homeless facade? Someone that's hasn't had the to for a haircut or whatever it is. What is that facade? It's the same facade. It's the other side of the coin. It's the same thing that everybody's got. It's just which costume are you putting on in which lifetime? The facade of I have worth, I am successful, I am the one that should be admired, or the other side of the coin of the same group of facades that says, I can't succeed, I'm hopeless, I'm helpless, I'm without, I'm unloved. Everybody's believing the same things. The costumes don't prove anything. They don't have any worth. Hold on to in the costumes that you've made. There's cultural costumes. There's family costumes. There's costumes from whether you lived in the city or you lived on a farm. There's costumes of what you think has to do with your age. There's costumes of your education. There's costumes of your family inheritance or your lack of it. It's all costumes. And it's the willingness to let them be unraveled so that you can find the light that you truly are within, that you truly come home and allow the power of God's healing to truly transform what you've been making up. There's a beautiful teaching that we've been here with. What I see witnesses to what I believe and think. What I see with these eyes, what I hear when you're in an ego identity, what you believe that you see is just the witness to what you believe and think. Every beloved that you have contact with that you aren't ready to see as the light of God, and that there is no competition, that there is nothing to prove or nothing to gain or nothing to get from anybody, nothing to compete with, nothing to compare with. Every beloved is your opportunity of seeing the light of God. If you see something else, you're just seeing a reflection of your beliefs and your own thinking. And that becomes the reflection. And that becomes the gratitude of, oh, thank God, thank you for showing me this. Thank you for the reflection. Thank you for letting me see my judgments. Thank you for letting me see my resistance. Thank you for letting me see my fears of not being the top dog. Thank you for the opportunity of surrendering again and again and again. Your schoolroom is your life. Your schoolroom is your relationship with incarnation. This has been your schoolroom from the moment that you incarnated. You believed in the schoolroom of the past, and you brought with you from past lives an already established identity of separation. And now the schoolroom in consciousness is being called to be surrendered into the hands of the Holy Spirit, into the hands of God, so that your schoolroom, your life, your everyday existence becomes the place of learning, the place of surrender, the place to learn to offer love, the place where you learn to no longer allow judgments, assessments, opinions, to have your mind, to truly give the mind back to God. The mind was split, and the truth of love was forgotten. And the only part that you've recognized and worked with and believed in has been the mind of a false identity, a false self, a false life. And yet, it hasn't been true at all. It's illusion. It's not real. You didn't lose your mind. You gave it to a false god, the ego. You gave it to a false identity and believed the past. But in the surrender and in the healing of love, you can awaken to the light of all creation. You can truly learn to live eternally, infinitely. Imagine that as the belief of time moves and you surrender your belief in time, and you surrender deeply with everything else, your belief in death. And you are no longer afraid of what seems to be the inevitable. You are no longer afraid of dying. Because this world of separation is a world of dying. It's a world of fear. To accept that you, the truth of you, cannot die. Every fear comes from the belief of death. Every fear. When you are afraid of lack, if you carry it all the way through, you will find that really what you're afraid of is death. You're afraid of not having, not getting. It's all the fear of death. It's the fear of being gone and never having found love, never having found your heart and let the wings of your divine self open and express itself. Everybody's afraid of. That's why everybody's afraid of death. Believing that it's the last opportunity of finding the truth of your divine self. But you cannot die. The truth of you cannot die. There is no death. Which is another purpose of healing. Because you are going to spend eternity with every beloved. You won't recognize them as you thought that they were in their body identities and in their false identities that you gave to them. All of those will be gone. But that gives you the impetus to heal, because as long as you believe in the judgments and the assessments and the opinions of separation, you can't remember. And you can't come home and rest in ease and peace and harmony and freedom and joy. And that joy, that freedom, that light, that's who you truly are. Free. Free to sing and dance as the divine manifested. Don't settle. In for the past. Let the light of God awaken within you with your yes, with your willingness to use every moment for its really divine purpose. What am I giving this moment for? What is this moment for? Is it for love or is it for hatred? Is it for fear? Is it for... And it is a conscious choice. If you go to sleep in your mind of habit, there is no healing. You'll just go into habit and just do what you think you know, following the past. But awakening is about awakening out of a deep sleep of habit, out of a deep sleep of a false identity, and becoming conscious in the moment, being available. What am I offering in this moment? What am I truly offering? What am I believing in this moment, and really questioning, what is this for? In that questioning, you join the light of God. You join and return somewhat into the awareness of true relationship, of allowing the light of God to be the guide that you want to follow. That guide will lead you. Absolutely. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to accept that leap of faith. Don't be afraid to step out of all the agreements that you've made with all the roles that you've acquired. Be willing to call on the divine and want that transformation, want to remember. Let love show you a world of peace, a world of harmony and joy, because that's who you are. That is the rising up of the divine, your true self, out of the ashes of the lies of separation. The willingness. Forgiveness. And not having meaning are intricately joined. To forgive all the mistaken identities that you've made up about everybody and about yourself. To forgive and realize it was just a mistake. And you can let it go. Don't spend time on the past lamenting how things should have been, how they would have been, how they could have been. Surrender it all and let the light of love spark the opening in your heart. There is no judgment in love. There is no condemnation in love. There is no punishment in love. All of that is self-propelled, self-attacked, all through judgment, all through the perception of knowing. There is no judgment in love, no punishment in love. Place it all on the coat rack, easily and effortlessly, and walk away, leaving it on the coat rack, and walk away with your hand in God's hand. And just follow. Follow love. It will lead you always. Leave everything on this coat rack that you will be better off without. And you will learn of the love that you are. I see the light. I see the divine perfection. I see the innocence. Not because there's a special gift here, but there was the willingness to surrender. And God did not fail that willingness. Not possible. In this world, everything can be healed. Truly, with your willingness. You hold the key. By your intention, by your choice, you either suffer or you rejoice. You are either embracing peace or you are defending the past. You can't have both. It's not possible. But love is guaranteed, and love is who you are. Divine, exquisite, eternal light of God.